umada.
Kupata skiza tune hii curfew, dial star 811 star 816 hash.
Wewe. Nitarutisha simu yako tu sahi. Nakimbia mbio, nimetolewa mbio. Unajua curfew ile nipata kwa njia. Nimepita kwa road block kama risasi kuliko hata risasi mbio. Lakini sasa hivi niko karibu nyumbani bwana. Nitakupiga nikifika nyumbani. Wewe unajua curfew sitaki polisi wanishike. Nitakupiga.
Ili kupata skiza tune hiyo ya curfew, dial star 811 star 816 hash. Star 811 star 816 hash.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBit ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBit ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Did you know that disease and accidents occur suddenly and when least expected? If you have a medical insurance policy, it gives you peace of mind knowing that your medical expenses will be catered for by insurer up to your policy limit. Now you know. IRA, promoting insurance, protecting the insured.
Good afternoon. Thank you for keeping it KBC Channel 1. This is the lunchtime news. It is the 13th day in the month of May 2021. President Uhuru Kenyatta and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson have just concluded virtual visits in schools here in the home country. President Uhuru Kenyatta telling Johnson Boris that it is safe for children to be in school, having the government considered all the necessary measures in ensuring an end to the spread of COVID-19. Thursday it is, I'll be bringing on board a life assurance policy expert to share with us more concerns on why you and I need the policy. It is a conversation we'd love to be part of. Do interact with us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. My name is Irene Muchuma Udim. My co-anchor on sign language interpretation this afternoon is Lucy Mwaura. The government has begun mapping out areas affected by the ongoing rains as it moves to cushion hundreds of families displaced by the floods. Government spokesperson Cyrus Oguna says after the identification exercise, the state will move to support the affected families by helping them relocate to higher grounds. The Meteorological Department projects that the rains will continue at least throughout the month of May.
West Pokot County, Nyatike, Budalangi, Tana River and parts of Siaya County have already been identified as the hardest hit areas by the ongoing rains, which have caused a trail of destruction, leaving many displaced. The government has moved in to map out areas affected by the floods and protect the vulnerable groups.
The government's commitment is to ensure that it is able to invest in infrastructural development, so that we can be able to lay a good foundation for our country to be able to move to the next level of economy.
Government spokesperson Colonel Cyrus Oguna, who was speaking in Naivasha in an inspection tour of the ongoing rehabilitation of the Moi South Lake Road, assured Kenyans of the government's support in ensuring those in flood-prone areas are taken to safer grounds.
All those areas have been mapped out by the government, and the government has put measures in place to ensure that where there are projects ongoing to ensure that there's no more flooding, people have been advised to move on to safer grounds so that we do not end up with the situation that we have been able to experience in the past.
The rains are causing havoc in many parts of the country, including Ruiru, Kiambu County, where several families in Watalam village have been forced to flee their homes after the destructive rains swept away their houses, while others remain flooded.
Tumeathirika sana kwa hii mkasa ya maji. Wakati wote sisi badala ya kushangilia mvua, tunashangilia hofu, kwa sababu lazima itaadhiri maeneo zetu.
Jafurahia kwa vile maji imekuja na imetupata, ikaingia kwa nyumba, ikatuharibia vitu na imeleta hasara kubwa sana. Kwa sababu hata wakati maji iliingia, kwangu mimi nilikuwa, lakini kwa jirani yangu hakuwa. Kwa hivyo mimi nilipata vitu zake zote zimeharibika. Nikienda kuokoa kwake na zangu pia zikaharibika.
Alice Wangari tries to drain the waters from her flooded house in vain. In the process, she will be forced to vacate her home, as many have here.
Hakujawahi kuwa na maji inakaa hivi, maji haitoki, maji haiendi. Sasa sisi shida yetu ni hiyo ya kukosa drainage. Sasa tunaomba tu wakuu wetu wa serikali wakuja watusaidie watengeneze drainage, at least tutoke kwa magonjwa. Juu yote ni sewage.
The majority of children in the affected families are yet to report back to school. Locals are seeking government's intervention.
Watoto wetu hawajalala hapa. Watoto wetu waligojewa huko kwa barabara na jirani mwema wakati alijua wazazi wameenda kutafuta uga. Wenye mvua ilinyesha akapata maji imejaa kwa barabara, akasimama akaniondolea watoto. Watoto wakalala kwa jirani, na hata saizi wako kwa jirani, shule hawajaingia. Na hata kesho situmaini wataingia kesho juu na kuko namna hii na kesho kutwa. Sasa shule naona ni kama next week kama tutakuwa tumeshughulikiwa.
Purity Museo, Channel 1 News.
The United Democratic Alliance Party and People's Democratic Party have claimed that security officers are being used to intimidate and interfere with their campaigns ahead of the Bonchari by-election. Led by legislators Alice Wahome and People's Democratic Party leader Omingo Magara, the leaders claimed that there was no fair playing field for some of the candidates in the race.
5 days to Bonchari by-election, a section of campaigners is crying foul over what they term as police biasness in the whole exercise. Legislators allied to Alice Wahome of Kandara and her South Mugirango counterpart Salvinus Osoro, and People's Democratic Party leader Omingo Magara condemned alleged intimidation by police.
Jana muliweza kukimbiza gari zetu, muliumiza candidate wetu. Hata hivi leo vile tunavyozungumza ametoka hospitali. Munapiga candidate mama.
These were not thugs or goons. We were actually blocked by police officers, and they hauled tear gases into our cars and live bullets, and some of them hit our cars using their rungus. It's unfortunate.
Magara, on the other hand, expressed dismay over attack claims by the police on the campaign entourage after police barricaded the road. However, Kisii County Commander Francis Cole denied the allegations, saying the police were discharging their mandate in line with the Constitution.
Is the last product whether the matter was processed and went to court. All cases that we've handled for Bonchari were processed and went to court and taken to court, and they are before court. Anybody who is disputing it and have a different legal who sees it from a different legal perspective, the matter is before court, and if they want, they can challenge it before a court of law.
Bonchari by-election occasioned by the death of MP Oro Oyoka will be held on May 18, 2021. Patricia Waidera for Channel 1 News.
Now, irate parents from Teso South and Sabia sub-counties in Busia County have closed down Alomodoi and Nanderema primary schools, respectively, on allegations of poor results in the 2020 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations. The parents are also demanding transfer of teachers and non-performing teachers.
Led by Douglas Ouma, they singled out Nanderema Primary School, whose performance, they said, is on a downward trend since the head teacher and his deputy joined the institution.
Watupatie mwalimu mkuu, watupatie naibu mwalimu mkuu, watupatie senior teacher. Those people are competent. Those people can work. Those people can collaborate with the other teachers.
In Olimodoi, the narrative is the same. Parents accuse the head teacher of lack of cooperation with Board of Management, and this they note could result into broken dreams of their children.
Shida iko kwa hii shule, kufukuza watoto, kuolela, mara na mara siji pesa, mara na mara pesa. Wanaenda kuchukua pesa, mnalipa pesa, amuone elimu ya watoto.
They're pleading with the Ministry of Education to intervene and assist the affected schools reclaim their lost glory.
Naomba serikali atusaidie. Ministry of Education atusaidie.
Bomet Governor Dr. Hilary Barchok has raised concerns on challenges faced by county governments over delay in funds disbursements. Barchok said the delay has greatly affected development within counties, among them schools infrastructure.
Speaking during a celebration of 2020 KCSE top performers in the county, the Bomet governor said lack of money in the counties was working against the development grain.
Hata kulipa mshahara sometimes is a challenge. As we are talking, we are in arrears. Kuanzia January, February, March, April, now we are in May. And we have not received disbursement. Ni kama ile pesa inatoka national government kuje kwa account ya shule.
The county government is offering a full scholarship to 10 needy and bright students in secondary schools from each of the 25 wards. He said those getting the sponsorship and are not doing well will be delisted.
Every student that we are sponsoring, when they are underperform, we discontinue from the program and give that support to a needy student who is doing very well. Yeah, I think we're in agreement. If you find us discontinuing the support in your schools, please support us kama walimu, because we want to invest where we are very sure we'll have positive return.
Elsewhere, the Minister of Education has been urged to review the Kiremi Mwiria Task Force of 2014 recommendations. Kenya Union of Special Needs Education Teachers Secretary General James Torome said it's now 6 years down the line and the figures which were given are yet to be affected fully, citing high economic status in the country as the sole reason.
Of education to review the school fees guideline which was issued by the Kiremi Mwiria Task Force, because the recommendation which were given, the government to pay 54,000 for special schools and the parents to pay 32. That is a total of 86,000 per year. As a union, we are seeing this figure is not working. Our head teachers in these institutions are suffering financially. The same.
Glad you're watching Channel 1 Lunchtime News. We are taking a short break. Remember, I mentioned of a life policy assurance expert being here with us in the studio. Do interact with us on our social media platforms. Acknowledgements. Josephat Oenga, you're saying you're watching from Kiserian. Desi Terry, you're saying you're watching from Kakamega. We'll be back with more after this break. Stay with us.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBay ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBay ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
on KBC Channel 1.
I didn't write that. Really? You got it wrong. I am not your father.
After you rip your shirt off, do you actually do this? Or do you do something like this?
It's me. Monster!
Hello?
Honey, don't be mad at me. I was wrong. I was too mean and wicked refusing your baby. I've thought it through. Since you're his daddy and I'm with you, I'll try my best to be a good stepmother, okay?
Well, hold on.
Welcome back. Kirinyaga T-Zone has elected John Midhamo as their chairman. Midhamo went in unopposed in an unanimous decision by 30 directors of the zone. The newly elected chairman pledged to fight for the rights of tea farmers who he says have suffered under previous regimes. He also expressed optimism that reforms in the tea sector will ensure the issue of middlemen is dealt with and tea farms that used to get tea freely buy it from auction centers at competitive prices.
Does KTDA belong to the farmers or does it belong to the workers? If it belongs to the farmers, then I don't think they have anything else to do apart from just get out and go. Harambes with our farmers are too much. We need them. We need the farmer to be taken care of by the insurance company, and that's one of our agendas.
Kirinyaga Zone 5, we are leaders in our tea quality, in our tea prices, and that is why at Kirinyaga peke yake ndio wamekula mini bonus. So we want to lead at a national tea board. We want us to be the leaders. So we are supporting John Midhamo wa Susana aende kule juu na tumusukume kiti ya chairman. We lead, others follows.
Environmentalists are opposing the implementation of 16% value-added tax on LPG that is expected to be effective starting July this year. The environmentalists say the move will have a negative impact on the environment and derail the conservation efforts that have been established to increase the country's forest cover.
Speaking during the 2 Million Trees for Climate Action campaign in Makueni County, the environmentalists led by the chairperson and founder Green Africa Foundation, Dr. Isaac Kalua, say the new policy might derail the gains made in forest conservation, with communities opting for cheap energy, which is firewood.
What is remaining as a country is to implement these legal frameworks. They are all there, but we are not implementing them. So I think as a Council of Governors, we are going to engage the ministry, and I'm happy the ministry is here. We are going to engage with you so that we ensure that these issues in the Act are implemented.
Intergovernmental Technical Relations Committee Chairman John Burugu called on Kenyans to embrace the culture of cut a tree, plant two.
How are we going to achieve this unless the government comes in to support us to deal with the matters of LPG in the best way that they can be affordable? It is very easy to bring down the cost of LPG in this country by bringing in people who can come in to add value from different parts of the country.
Makueni County Governor Kivutha Kibwana lauded the initiative to plant 2 million trees ahead of the 7th Devolution Conference that will be held in the county in August this year.
Sisi kama serikali ya kitaifa, serikali za county, tuvichukue kwa hali ya juu, ndio tuwe tuna harambee ya kusaidia mambo ya environment na climate change and the communities, because this is a joint effort of all of us, and we are very grateful because COG and the Secretariat have been forefront in terms of helping us from the COG level to move this agenda forward, and also the agenda of the conference and generally the agenda of devolution.
Remarks echoed by Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, who said the choice of the event was timely adding that through the initiative, counties will be tasked to showcase what they have done to address issues on climate change.
Ukambani ya ukame, Ukambani ikiwa na njaa ni tofauti sana na Ukambani ikiwa na mvua. Na ndio sababu siku ya leo tukija hapa tunataka tujiandae vilivyo ili Kenya nzima, all the 47 counties, tuweze kuja Makueni mwezi wa 8. Na sio tu taifa la Kenya, tutakuwa na wageni hata kutoka kule nje, kule Europe, kule Amerika. Tunataka waje hapa tujionee vile tumejipanga. We want to talk about climate action. We want to see what each county is doing towards achieving climate action to deal with this challenge that is the greatest challenge of our generation.
For Chanwa News, I'm Nisi Imano Okoth.
3 more African countries, Algeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Nigeria, have now reported the Indian variants of coronavirus. This confirmation brings the number of African nations confirmed with the B1617 mutation to 7. Elsewhere, Gabon has sought to join Commonwealth.
Senga, who coordinates the WHO's COVID-19 response in Africa, said he had no further details on the number of cases or travel history of the people who tested positive in Algeria, DR Congo, and Nigeria. 4 African countries, Kenya, Morocco, South Africa, and Uganda, have already confirmed the presence of the B1617 variant, all linked with the recent travel to India. The WHO has recently classified the Indian mutation, which was detected in October 2020, as a variant of concern. In other news, Gabon's President Ali Bongo Ondimba has said the country could join the Commonwealth during the upcoming summit in Kigali, Rwanda. President Ondimba held talks with the Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland. He said the integration of Gabon into the Commonwealth would be a historical milestone.
Unrest is growing in some Israeli cities and towns as Hamas militants have launched dozens of rockets at Israel. This as Israeli airstrikes killed senior commanders and felled another tower block in Gaza.
In 2 incidents, a Jewish man in Accra was attacked by Arab men, and the Jewish mob pulled a Palestinian out of his car and beat him up in Bat Yam. At least 67 people in Gaza and 7 people in Israel have been killed. The fighting erupted on Monday after weeks of rising Israeli-Palestinian tension in East Jerusalem, which culminated in clashes at a holy site revered by Muslims and Jews. Meanwhile, adults are more likely to report mild and moderate side effects after mixing doses of the AstraZeneca and Pfizer COVID vaccines, a study indicates. Chills, headaches, and muscle pain were reported more frequently when different vaccine doses were combined. Any adverse reactions were short-lived, with no other safety concerns. The COMCOM study was launched in February to see whether a different jab for the second dose might give longer-lasting immunity, better protection against new variants, or simply allow clinics to swap vaccines if supplies are interrupted.
Now, thank you for keeping it KBC Channel 1. You might have been invited to various groups. This in regards to contributions following maybe a passing on of a friend or contribution towards a health support of a family member or a relative. And this has come to arise especially after the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic here in the home country. Now, did you know that such expenses in other countries are being covered by a life assurance policy? Now, bringing on board on set is Jack Kionga, Acting Managing Director, CIC Life Insurance, to shed more light on this life assurance policy. And maybe to kick us off, what is the importance of this life assurance policy? And maybe to begin us off, let us understand from the expert's view, what is this policy? Welcome on set.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure. Let me first of all define what life insurance is. Basically, life insurance covers financial risks that are based on a person's life. For example, if you have financial obligations and you're not there, those financial obligations still have to be met. And I'll give a good example. If you buy a house today for worth 40 million and you take out an insurance cover, what it means is that whatever balance you might have on that house is taken over by the insurance company. Another example, which is really popular, is you have children, they need to go to school whether you're there or not. So you take out a policy so that their education and their future is secured whether you are there or not. So life insurance basically just says that if I have financial obligations, those obligations can actually be taken over by an insurance policy, simply put.
We have had concerns, especially amid the COVID-19 pandemic, ever since the country reported the first case in March. And we have seen case after case. How has this been impacted in the life assurance policy here in the home country?
Let me tell you, Irene, the impact is tremendous because CIC alone, as we sit here today, we have paid claims worth over 300 million just from COVID alone. But what I would like to look at it also is the impact of the fact that these are people who had borrowed, they had assets, they had obligations, and those obligations and the assets are not going to be touched because they took out a life insurance policy. So there's a negative impact in the sense that lives have been lost, and also because there's been a financial cost. But I would like to look at it that we have had an opportunity of showing who we are by saying, even if it has happened, such a time as this is what insurance is all about.
And also during this time, we have seen the issue of Kenyans being urged to use technology to avoid face-to-face contact. Has this also been applied when it comes to life assurance policy?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the companies that are doing well are the ones who had adopted technology even earlier, because in today's day and age, technology is the most effective way of reaching out to people. Then when you also think about the demographics, we find that people are more comfortable probably interacting with their phone than with a person. So much as it would have been at a better place if we had not waited more for COVID to come for us to accelerate the growth, we have found ourselves in a situation where we're actually able to interact with our clients. We're actually able to sell a policy or provide a solution and have them use the technology to buy and to pay and to receive whatever documentation they need to receive, and even the communication process around it, like SMS or just applications that they can get information from.
What has the response from Kenyans been in regards to the adoption of technology, especially when it comes to this life assurance policy? And also considering that the Insurance Regulatory Authority had reduced the number of days of claiming these funds to 30. What is the response from your company, from where you sit?
Yeah, thank you very much. There are two elements. Let me start with the second question about the 30 days. That is a very, very positive move from the regulator, because what he's trying to do is to tell the insurance companies, you do not have a discretion to keep money that you should have paid for 90 days, because the law before, the current law is 90 days. But it also helps the industry in the sense that we shall be paying claims sooner and dealing with that risk that people talk about, that insurance companies do not pay claims. But for us as CIC, we have a policy, a documented policy, that any fully documented claim should be paid within 5 days. We do not have to wait for the regulator, but I think for the industry to take away the temptation of holding people's money, the 30 days rule is a very good rule. Now, the other question, yes, had to do more with insurance uptake during this particular pandemic, and also the element of technology in it. There's an increased uptake when it comes to products that cover the death of a person, because of, let's call them funeral covers, because the cost of burying people has gone up, not because the cost, it has gone up because of the numbers that have gone up for any one particular family. Whereas before you could be having a death once a year, you're now having some families even having 5-6 deaths in a particular year. So there's a quick update on that. Then the element of embracing technology, the millennia actually prefer dealing more with technology than one-on-one. So that has an implication of developing products that are easy to consume, thinking about the customer journey, where you're able to onboard a policy quite easily, where the benefits are transparent. And we have seen actually an increased uptake, especially to products that are related to savings, and where the savings are actually transparent to the person who is buying, in the sense that they know how much they have in their account.
From where I sit and from the research we have been able to conduct, not so many Kenyans have taken part in this kind of policy. What extra miles have you gone as a company to ensure that we are vibrant as a country in this policy, because it has its own benefits as much as also challenges stand in place?
This is what we've done. Let me tell you, the reason why we have that challenge is that insurance has always been where you develop a product as a company and you push it down to the market. It has always been basically more driven by the financial advisors, who are probably many of them are more concerned about the commission that they earn than the benefits of the product. But what we've done is that we've turned things the other way around, where we're saying we want the customer to tell us what they want, how they want it delivered, and also what kind of communication and interaction they want to have with us. So that means, number one, research and development, where we actually go to the people and ask them how do they want to consume. Number two, the element of developing products that they are able and they want to consume. Number three, developing distribution models that seem to be owned by the owners or the people who are buying the policy. So as opposed to the traditional model of the agency, you look at people who have been aggregated in a group and you sell the concept. So they're the ones who sell among themselves. Number four, of course, is the element of making the technology easy. And at the same time, number five is constant communication, so as to dissuade their minds that insurance is a con game. The other thing also with technology is for them being able to access their accounts and make requests through those accounts. It creates a level of trust that is now company-based as opposed to being based on the person who used to sell the insurance.
From where you sit, of course, you've been able to conduct surveys from county to county. What do Kenyans say you need to do for them to increase their numbers to this policy? Where do you go wrong?
Yeah, that question is very, very important. We go wrong because they don't trust us. And one of the things the reason why they don't trust us is because you have the insurance company and then you have the intermediary. So they want to feel the insurance company more. They want to know that when somebody mentions CIC, they have a connection with CIC itself. Number two, they tell us the issue of the claims, because like you've pointed out, there's this legislation that will come of 30 days, and they'll ask that question, why do you have to be legislated to do what you're supposed to do? So once you create that connection with them, that they're dealing with you, that their claims are going to be paid within reasonable time, then they connect well with you. But again, technology plays a very big role because it creates a transparency. That is what we've done at CSC, to create a transparency so people do not have to ask questions. People can just look and see the status of their policies and then know they're comfortable, and not just individuals. So in the counties, and remember what is also happening, the counties are becoming more and more, with the evolution, more exposed than they were before. So we have branches that are over there that they can go to if they do not have the technology to access the information. And we've also created partnerships, especially with our cooperative partners, so that we can use them to also reach out to our people within the counties.
From the projections that you've been able to do as a company, as you have just mentioned, you've been able to move from county to county, but then we have that projection in a short term. Will have Kenyans have adapted this policy, or we still have a long way to go?
Yes, we do.
So what are these measures that we're trying to put in place to ensure that at least we are, it's a plus to the country, because if at all it's catered for by other people instead of individuals, don't you see it's of great benefit? So where do we start from?
We start by interacting with these people directly. For example, insurance in itself, we know it is a good thing, and people are seeing that now. So the problem is not what we're advocating. The problem is that how we're connecting with the people there. And so what we're saying is that let us go to groups that are aggregated, even in the counties. So for example, if I'm going to sell something, insurance to a border, I should not sit in my office, come up with a product and then sell the product. But I go to the person, and if that person buys, then you have a whole group that buys, an aggregated group, and then the numbers come in. And there's similar groups that you can deal with like that. That is our strategy.
We do believe that with time, what you've said, you'll be able to put it in practical. What would be your closing remarks as we come to an end of this?
I think what I'll say is that this is a good time for the industry to actually take advantage of what is going on, because whether you believe in insurance or not, the impact of it is being felt. And it's also a good time to also make the nation understand that you're much better off, having an insurance policy than not having one. But I think to the industry, it is a very good opportunity for us to educate people more and to engage more with the people down in the grassroots, as opposed to being seen to be detached from them. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. That has been Jack Kionga, the Acting Managing Director, CIC Life Assurance Policy, giving us more insights on why we need to be part and parcel of life insurance policy, considering that in other countries this is catered for by the insurance, especially when it comes to contribution to funerals and also health support. And this has been on the rise, especially amid the COVID-19 and after the first case was reported here in the home country on COVID-19. Thank you, sir. Welcome once again. And on that note, Channel 1 Lunchtime News takes a short break. We'll be back with more, including sports news.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Thank you for staying with us. Safaricom has reported a 6.8% reduction in its full-year net profit to 68.7 billion shillings that the telco attributes to tough economic conditions triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. Safaricom CEO Peter Ndegwa said the waived mobile money transfer charges on transactions of up to 1,000 shillings impacted the company's bottom line. The telco has proposed a final dividend payout of 92 cents per share.
Safaricom says M-Pesa revenues declined partly due to the central bank's directive that the company waives mobile money transfer fees for transactions below 1,000 shillings, which saw free transactions worth 4.4 billion shillings processed in the last 9 months of last year.
We have operated this past financial year under very extraordinary circumstances. We started the financial year in April 2020 under government-imposed lockdown, and we closed the financial year in yet another lockdown. During the year, the board closely followed the management's actions in order to ensure the well-being of our staff and customers.
M-Pesa accounted for 33% of the total service revenue from 33.6% last year, impacted by the waiver of the transaction fees. Service revenue declined 0.3% to 250.4 billion shillings, as messaging revenue declined 11.7% to 13.6 billion shillings.
We are operating under extraordinary circumstances, and the effects of this pandemic are far-reaching, including its impact on our performance for the period.
Internet usage increased 58.5%, driven by working and schooling from home trends. This pushed up fixed service and wholesale transit revenue, which grew 6% to 9.5 billion shillings, supported by growth in fibre to the home business.
But our most critical support to our country was and remains ensuring network stability to keep the country connected. During this period, we accelerated network rollout specifically for 4G, with over 1,000 new sites set up.
The telco plans to focus on growing its mobile money services along with data, as internet usage registers a spike from mass usage during the pandemic.
Continued innovation of our offerings and a shift in consumer behavior more towards cashless transactions, a behavior we hope will remain in the future.
The telco has recommended a final dividend payout of 92 cents per share, which will cost Safaricom 36.86 billion shillings. This means the telco will have spent 54.89 billion shillings on both interim and final dividend payout. Alan Auko, Channel 1 Business.
Construction of cargo sheds that will pave the way for cargo flights from the Isiolo International Airport has begun, with the new development expected to be a boost for miraa and flower farmers in the region. Kenya Airports Authority Acting Managing Director Alex Gitari says the sheds being constructed at a cost of 20 billion shillings will have a capacity to handle at least 10 tons of cargo luggage per day.
The Isiolo International Airport, whose construction cost the taxpayer over 3 billion shillings and was officially opened in July 2017, has seen dwindled activities. However, officials now say that completion of cargo shades and extension of the runway will revitalize the facility, with the main beneficiaries being miraa and horticultural farmers.
However, I think you've seen it's quite a big facility, and we think it will be adequate, to handle the volume of cargo from miraa. If there is need for additional capacity, we will be able to grant space for either private operators to partner with us to be able to provide additional capacity.
Speaking during an inspection tour of the facility, Kenya Airports Authority Acting Managing Director Alex Gitari said the new shades will also target meat and animal products, benefiting residents of the counties of Isiolo, Meru and Laikipia.
We will be working very closely with the county governments of Isiolo and Meru as part of our business development plans. In fact, I will be later on meeting one of the governors, to pursue those discussions.
Currently, a number of airlines have expressed interest in commencing operations at the Isiolo International Airport after the upgrades, in a move that is also expected to provide a major boost to economic development in the region, especially in tourism, horticulture and livestock. Alan Auko, Channel 1 Business.
Before we move to sports news, let's get back to some news making headlines in the local scene. Muslims around the world today celebrated Eid ul-Fitr, one of the holiest occasions in the Islamic calendar, while coping with coronavirus restrictions. In Mombasa, the Muslims converged at Tononoka grounds to celebrate the post-Ramadan feast of Eid al-Fitr prayers. Speaking in Mombasa, Chief Hadi Sheikh Mohadar called on Muslim brothers to pray for each other and use the opportunity to help the less fortunate in the society. This even as a section of Muslims defied Chief Hadi's advice to celebrate the religious day tomorrow. Sheikh Mohadar had last evening announced that Muslims will mark the Eid prayers on Friday.
Kwa hiyo inamaanisha kuwa tarehe 14 Mei 2021 ambayo itakuwa ni siku ya Ijumaa ndio itakuwa siku ya tarehe 1 Shawwal, na ndio itakuwa siku ya kusherekea Idul Fitri ya mwaka huu 1442. Tunawatakia Waislamu na Wakenya wote kwa jumla Idi Mubarak, Idul Fitri ya kheri yenye baraka nyingi, na tunawatakia kila mazuri kutoka kwa Mwenyezi Mungu.
Na pia Waislamu na wahimiza wote wale waliokuwa nazo isiwe ndio mwisho wa zakatul fitri, bali waendelee kusaidia Waislamu, na pia kuna zakatul mal ambao waweze kusaidia wenzao.
Na nafurahi sana kusherehekea siku hii ya Idul Fitri. Nashukuru sana Mwenyezi Mungu, safari tumeswali pamoja, tumeona mwezi kuliko Ramadhani ya mwaka jana tuliswali na mambo ya corona, kafyu hatukuweza kuswali msikitini.
Let's do some sports news. Borussia Dortmund and RB Leipzig will lock horns tonight in the final of the DFB Pokal at the Olympia Stadium in Berlin, Germany. Borussia Dortmund will be aiming to win the DFB Pokal for the 5th time in the club's history, while Leipzig will be looking to win their first ever trophy. The match, set to kick off at 9:45 p.m., will be televised live on KBC Channel 1.
Borussia Dortmund aim to win the DFB Pokal for the first time since the 2016-17 season, when they face RB Leipzig in the final tonight in Berlin. Leipzig, on the other hand, want to win their first trophy, as they have only reached the Pokal final once before in 2019, when they suffered a 3-0 defeat to Bayern Munich. Leipzig were far from their best during their 3-2 defeat to Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga, and they will no doubt want to improve on that in the DFB Pokal final. They go into tonight's clash with just 3 wins in their last